So the press conference, WrestleMania kickoff show essentially just concluded at T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. And we've got more questions essentially than answers. I will say this much. I'll say this much to start things out. WWE, the one thing I like about this a lot is the one thing that I always hold my hat on this press conference or on our podcast, might I say, but on any episode you watch and a YouTube video is I don't like predictability. I like WWE to give us something that we're not expecting, not to just take us down the road that we know we're going down and give us the result. Because let me tell you, if Cody and Roman faced off one-on-one for sure at WrestleMania, I would very much wonder like what kind of intrigue that would be, because obviously I just don't think Cody's going to lose again, right? I mean, that would be really interesting if he did, but more importantly, what are we going to do on the road for a rematch that we didn't do the first time around, essentially, right? So good on WWE for kind of taking us in a whole different direction. Now, I don't know, Brandon, the first question I'm just going to ask of you when it comes to what we saw. So what we saw, obviously, Rock versus Roman, your main event for WrestleMania. Then all of a sudden, Cody comes out, and then he picks Roman to be in the main event of WrestleMania. Rock takes exception to that for the fact that he's not just, talking smack about Roman, but he's talking smack about him by, default because they share the same bloodline. And it seemed that once was Rock versus Roman is now a alliance between Rock and Roman, right? And a heel Rock while we're at it, right? And then Seth Rollins over here picking Cody's side, right? Which seems kind of strange. And Rock slapping Cody. And the press conference concluded essentially after even all was said and done with Triple H trying to decipher some of it in the back and Rock coming back and telling Triple H to F off. So with that being said, with what we just saw at the press conference and essentially the main event for WrestleMania not really being any more certain than it was before the press conference, do you think that this angle, whatever this angle is, was a result of fan backlash, or was WWE going the route we're going on this whole time?
I think this is the route they were going the entire time. I really feel that way because let's not forget, we have 2 nights of WrestleMania. So, and obviously we just, as of recording, we waited a little bit later in the night than we usually do to record because of this press conference that is happening, because we wanted to give you guys a nice live reaction. And my initial gut reaction right now, and you know what, and it's just my speculation here, I feel like at this point it served both purposes. The Rock's going to get his main event at WrestleMania, but Cody's also going to get his main event at WrestleMania. Here's what happens. Cody Rhodes is going to be waiting for the winner on night. So night 1 is going to be The Rock versus Roman, which I would obviously expect Roman Reigns will be the champion going into night 2. And then this is going to be far off from where I was in the last few episodes and recent memories. And you guys go back. I put some stuff online of what I was thinking over the last few weeks. This is my initial reaction. I think Cody finishes the story night 2 and beats Roman Reigns. I can't believe I'm saying that.
Well, that most recently you had a very much different that I've been giving you crap about for a week now.
Yeah.
Plus, it wasn't Cody finishing the story. You had Rock and Roman at Elimination Chamber, which something that was definitely talked about a month ago when Rock came back, right? A lot of people were talking about that Elimination Chamber, Rock versus Roman. I mean, but you held on to it even like prior to this press conference starting, which I thought was an insane theory, as well as Orton versus Roman for your main event of WrestleMania. So I'm not going to let you live that one down.
Okay.
Even as this press conference was made, you were still, like I said, very much thinking Rock and Roman was happening in Elimination Chamber. And I will say this much about Elimination Chamber too. This is a disservice. Forget WrestleMania just for a second here, and this press conference that clearly is kicking off the road to WrestleMania. I understand WrestleMania is the biggest show. I'm the one that said Rock and Roman has to happen at WrestleMania. That's the bigger show. But the Elimination Chamber is being held in a stadium this year, not in Saudi Arabia at a stadium which they can fill because that's kind of the thing they do there. No matter what, this is at a stadium in where they're booking a stadium with the hopes to draw people to turn this into essentially a bigger event, try to turn it into one of the big 4, the tentpole events, right? Elimination Chamber last year, if I remember, because I was there, great event, great build. And yes, it didn't overshadow WrestleMania at all. But let me tell you, when Sammy was facing Roman, we weren't thinking about Mania at that time. We were thinking about Sammy versus Roman. That place was hot. And a lot of people would say that might even be the best pay-per-view of 2023. Okay? So with that being said, I think, with all this going on, what a disservice for Elimination Chamber, especially because, again, it's in a country that they don't get WWE events that often. And 45,000 plus have already bought tickets to what they're expecting to be a very, very big event. And I understand that there's still some potential for it to be a big event, but for you to hold essentially a WrestleMania press conference to decide the matches for WrestleMania when you still have a pay-per-view, and again, not just a pay-per-view in Knoxville, Tennessee, but a pay-per-view in front of 45,000 people who've paid thousands of dollars for premium passes, for meet and greets, for the experience, people who are flying in from all over the world who are getting essentially the WrestleMania treatment because it's a stadium event. You're going to have the premium packages with the meet and greets and the superstar brunches and all this kind of once in a lifetime stuff that they just did for the Royal Rumble and that they just did for Survivor Series. You're getting people to put money down and to do that. And when you book a stadium event, you're making people think that this is going to be a big event. When I heard this was going to be in Australia, you make me think, do I want to go to Australia? This seems like it's going to be a big event. I mean, this isn't just a pay-per-view. This seems like they're going to give me a WrestleMania kind of card. And then to just so far, with about 2 weeks out from the event, just kind of gloss over Elimination Chamber, even more so than they ever have in the past. Because like I said, normally these WrestleMania pressers, like whether they're in New York City, because they've done them before, the Battle of the Billionaires and all this kind of stuff, they've done that before. They don't normally do it, though, like with another pay-per-view right on the horizon. They do it like after that, like March 1st, as we're really on the road to WrestleMania. So I feel that's kind of a disservice. And again, if Elimination Chamber was just like a small SmackDown exclusive pay-per-view, I get it. That's fine. But the fact that, you're telling people, hey, this is a stadium show. We're coming to your town and we told you almost a year ago that we're coming to your town for this once in a lifetime major stadium event. All Australia press is saying, wow, WWE's coming for essentially a WrestleMania caliber event. And to not really be giving it any, so far we know there's Elimination Chamber match and Rhea Ripley versus Nia Jax. As for the women's title, we have no men's matches.
We also have an undisputed WWE tag team match too. That's another one. Which right now, obviously, it's Judgment Day versus either the team of Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate or DIY, which is obviously as of recording at this point. Yes. That's to be determined. But regardless, you're right. There's only 3 matches.
So with that being said, and it gives you a chance to kind of double down a little bit, right? Because I think what we're getting for WrestleMania, maybe after what we've seen, or at least we're gonna get pretty soon, is Seth and Cody Rhodes versus Rock and Roman, a unified team. My question to you is, do you think we're getting that at Chamber? Because I think we're getting that at Mania, and I know we're getting that. Or am I out of left field that we're getting that?
I'm going to say this. You know what? You know me. I don't mind eating crow. I was actually hoping, up to this press conference we just watched, and yes, to all of our great listeners and stuff, there was a lot of texting going on the last few hours. And here's my thing. I was really hoping to get that big tasty steak dinner out of Jared, but it's not working at this point. So I'm going to go with another bold prediction here. And you just left something on the table for me, ahead of the table, so to speak. I think we're going to see this at Australia. We're going to see this at Perth. We're going to see the Elimination Chamber. We're going to see a tag team match between, I just say Bloodline, a.k.a. The Rock and Roman Reigns, versus the newly respected guys of each other, one of another, Seth Rollins and Cody Rhodes. That's, you know what, and to your point, it's a 60,000 plus. I don't know. I don't have the venue in front of me.
I think they've sold 45,000 seats, so I imagine they'll get in the ballpark of 50,000 when all said and done.
And my point is, if you're selling that many seats, like you just said, you're selling 45 tickets that have already been sold, and people are paying top dollar, and they're making this a big deal. It'd be a disservice to the Australian folks if you don't put on something, monumental. Maybe not monumental, but maybe something big, something cool, something like that they're going to talk about for the next 10 years or for forever, for that matter. Which in this case, why not have The Rock there? And that's why I thought all along that The Rock would be an Elimination Chamber, one way, shape, or form, because the Australian folks, they were willing to, they really wanted to rock there. They were willing to do what it took. I don't know if that's going to happen. We don't know yet. But as it stands, there's 3 matches. Those 3 matches are not. They're going to send. I mean, obviously, there's going to be more matches developed here in the next, 2 weeks or so. But at this point, these 3 matches, they're not. That's not 45,000 seat, type matches.
And which one would main event even? I mean, I imagine we're going to have another Elimination Chamber match, right? What is that Elimination Chamber going to be for the U.S. title or something? So last year's 2 Elimination Chambers were for a number 1 contendership and for the United States Championship. I don't know what the second Elimination Chamber this year is going to be for, because I imagine there will be 2. There'll be a men's and a women's. But yeah, neither of those even last year main evented, right? So, and that was an arena. So what stadium main event are you going to give? You're not going to give them the number 1 contendership women's elimination.
We're getting that tag match. We're getting that tag match. We have to, right? Like at this point, 2 weeks left before the big show. I don't see why they can't put this together right now. They just sold the heck out of it. These promos between all combatants were fantastic. The slap of the face from Rock to Cody, just the back and forth stuff as they were finishing up the event, where Seth Rollins was talking smack to I believe it was The Rock at that point. Like there was so much going on there. Like to me, that's enough of a build. And to me, so they can sell it to these 45,000 plus fans. I think, and here's the other thing. And I don't have the specifics. I'm just going off of the top of my head. I believe The Rock has a lot of his people that work for him or represent him. I believe one of his top guys, for example, is in Australia. I don't know if he lives there, but he's in Australia. So a lot of people are connecting the dots there. Like, okay, one of Rock's maybe inner circle or somebody he does business with is in Australia. It would make sense for him to compete in Australia. Make it a twofer. You're giving the Australian folks a great show. And then in April, the first week of April, you're putting on another great show at WrestleMania. And you know what? That's the best way to get around all the negative press that we've covered recently. I'm not going to go into that because we already talked about it. All the negative press that we've had recently. What better way to, I'm not saying move past it, but move forward in a sense, so wrestling fans can have something positive to talk about amongst their peers than having The Rock at not 1 event, but 2 events in the next couple months.
I will go and I'll say, going back, not around Elimination Chamber, but going about the storyline being planned, I'm going to say that I do think that this is somewhat of a swerve and somewhat of a change than originally planned. Because there's 2 things that did go into play here. One, it's hard for it to be planned because CM Punk's injury really wasn't planned, right? And it appears that he is obviously truly out now, and he's not going to be a part of WrestleMania despite the Drew McIntyre t-shirt and that kind of thing. So it seems like he will be out for WrestleMania. So with that being said, there was some sort of change, right?
Not a major change. Not a major change, I don't think. I don't think it was a major change because I thought all along,
okay,
it was going to be Seth Rollins and CM Punk. That's what I thought it was going to be all along. So for me, the other 3 out of the 4 that we've been talking about, I don't think there was that much of a change, to be honest with you. I think this was part of the plan, at least to some degree. What we're probably going to get between now and in WrestleMania in Philly is obviously it's going to be, we got to wait to see what happens. But I don't think the changes were as big as people may think because of the injury. Because I do think The Rock, Roman, and Cody, I thought that whole thing was already. They were in the mix. Those 3 were in the mix one way, shape, or form. And then I think why they're bringing Seth Rollins into the mix is because he doesn't have a dance partner, so to speak, which is CM Punk. That's what my thinking is at this point. And obviously this is a knee-jerk reaction, just kind of filling it out, I'm fired up right now.
So something would be changed, right? Because if Seth Rollins was going to face CM Punk, him being thrown in there at the last minute and maybe even being a part of this tag match wouldn't have transpired with CM Punk around.
That's the change in my book. Because the more I think about it, because here's what I'm thinking. This is what and this is obviously I was the way this press conference just unfolded. My brain, I'm just racking my brain around it. My initial knee jerk reaction right now is the plan all along was they're probably going to do Rock and Roman night 1, and then night 2 they're going to do Roman Cody. I think that was the plan for a while now.
How do you settle this Cody Rock thing, though? Because obviously we saw the disrespect between Rock and Cody. So, I mean, they're never going to essentially, outside of this tag match, we're not going to get one-on-one with them?
That's a great question. That's the $1 million question. I mean, especially with the parties involved, because obviously The Rock is who he is and Cody is who he is. And you were listening to the press conference. It was very split in that audience. There was, we want Cody, and you hear, no, we don't. Like it was a very split audience.
I think Cody, on even WWE's perspective, they're given. He's definitely got the majority.
But here's the thing, though.
Even for me, who's a Rock fan, just because of the way the storyline is.
But here's the thing: at the venue, it was more split than you think. I thought both sides, both sets of fans that were on their side, one Cody, one Rock. I thought in the arena itself, I felt like it was more split, at least from my ears. Here's the thing, though. To answer that question, Cody and Rock. I mean, the only other swerve is The Rock beats Roman Reigns, and then Roman Reigns is out of night 2, obviously, at that point, and then you get Cody and Rock for all the marbles. I mean, I don't know if Rock does double duty, though. I just don't know if he can do it at this point. I'm not challenging The Rock by any means. Rock is a freak. He's in his 50s.
That'd be triple duty if you want to see him at the Chamber, and then 2 nights of WrestleMania.
I'm saying double duty just at one weekend for a guy who doesn't wrestle regularly. Yes, he's in great shape, though. I just don't know if he would do it. But that, in my initial thoughts, just because you threw that question at me, that's my initial thought on it, to be honest with you.
One thing that also makes me think that this is kind of a change of plan, or not necessarily going as it was planned, because it then really makes. And this has been kind of the thing where a lot of things are just not making sense. I mean, maybe that's also good here, right? And maybe it'll be used as fuel for the fire going forward. As we, I like they tell us we only have 58 days till WrestleMania, but if you remember, that's 58 days. That's a lot of days in WWE world.
Right.
That's a lot of days. Sometimes they have 3 pay-per-views in that span of time. But the SmackDown thing, that now makes no sense. Everything, all of a sudden now we have these things where something before now doesn't make sense. Obviously SmackDown didn't make sense when we're like, well, the Royal Rumble didn't make any sense. Why did Cody win? And now with the press conference, we look back on SmackDown and go, wait, now SmackDown didn't make any sense. Why did Cody say, I'm not going after you at WrestleMania, and then back The Rock and then come out like that just didn't happen? You know what I mean?
Well,
and now pick Roman.
He addressed it in the presser, though. He did address it in the presser just a little bit. I don't know if you caught that part of it. Like, he looked at The Rock and said, yeah, I know we had our conversation, but I also spoke to some other people. I think that was his way to kind of, twist it a little bit. And I think the way we have to interpret that, I think now, is those other people said, don't let The Rock just take your spot. Go get what's yours. And now here's the other thing, too. And this is the big thing for me. You can't have the Royal Rumble winner play second fiddle to The Rock at this point. It sets the wrong precedent, because then what's the Royal Rumble mean then? You know what?
I agree.
I think that's
why I have been. The Rock said recently, I think it was the day of recording this, right, that this storyline has been in place since Roman Reigns has called himself the head of the table, and I couldn't agree more, right? I put out a video earlier this week on our channel, which I have to say is the highest viewed video outside of a Undertaker match that we posted years ago in the history of this channel, which I thank the couple thousand that watched it. And in that, I said, since The Rock was at, not just going back to COVID, but I said in the video that in 2022 at the Super Bowl at SoFi Stadium, when The Rock was at midfield, I said to everybody I was watching the Super Bowl with, and I don't normally watch Super Bowl with that many people, and sometimes I don't watch it at all, but that time I said, that guy right there, because I want to show my fan of wrestling, that guy right there will be at midfield at SoFi Stadium 1 year from now. Not at this year's WrestleMania, because, it's only 3 months, and Rock and Roman needs more than 3 months, so it's not happening in Dallas. But it's happening at SoFi, because that'll give it a full year build. That's what I thought, right? I thought, 1, it's happening, 2, it needs build. And either way, I knew it's happening, right? And when that didn't happen, I still said, okay, it didn't happen this year, but it's going to happen. At WrestleMania, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. That's just the end of this thing, is I knew this was going to happen, and I was a fan of this happening. then obviously what we've had in the last week in getting to this point of it happening has been a complete me now rooting for Cody because, yes, I want Rock and Roman, but I don't want it in spite of you making sense with the Royal Rumble winner, right? I'm not a fan of Cody winning the Rumble. I would prefer the Rock had won the Royal Rumble to set this match up if that's what makes sense. I don't want Cody winning the Royal Rumble and then just not doing anything with it because, like you said, sets a bad precedent. Why the Royal Rumble is the big event that it is because it has meaning. So you can't take that meaning away from it. Simply, I can, one thing that they could have done at this press conference that would have made the SmackDown thing make sense. This way, and every word, in fact, Cody said could have made sense. He came out and he said two things. He said, when I come after you, I'm taking everything from you, not just the championship. And he also said, I'm not facing you at WrestleMania. What he could have meant by all of that is that I'm not facing you at WrestleMania because I'm facing you at the Elimination Chamber. And I'm going into this year's WrestleMania, unlike last year, as champion, not challenger. And what I mean by I'm taking everything with you is the fact that once I take your championship, then I will be endorsing The Rock to take your title, essentially, as head of the table. So he could have meant that. He could have said, hey, I'm taking the title, Rock's taking the tribal title, and at WrestleMania, essentially, in the next 2 months, we are indeed taking everything from you. And that would have made it all true, right? He's not facing him at WrestleMania. He's keeping his Royal Rumble spot because they've done that before. We've seen that in the past. It's not usual, but we've seen people cash in their Royal Rumble early at like No Way Out or Elimination Chamber, that kind of thing before. So we've seen that happen. Again, really rare. But they've either said they're going to do it or like Money in the Bank, right? They do it anytime they want. And we've seen that happen before where people have kind of jumped the gun on wrestling at WrestleMania with the Rumble. They kind of go after it early. Again, really rare, but still. So he could have said, I got the title shot anytime I want. It doesn't have to be Mania. So instead, I am going to main event WrestleMania. It's as champion, and I'm beating you at Elimination Chamber. Boom. That could have made everything make sense. He faces Roman Reigns at Elimination Chamber. Everyone gets excited. He finishes his story, wins the championship, walks into WrestleMania as champion. No one feels disheartened because he's your champion. He's got the belt, and then we can watch Rock and Roman with no championship on the line and be a fan of it. My thing here is that what's getting kind of ruined here is I want Rock and Roman. I want it one-on-one. I want it at WrestleMania, and I want it for only the head of the table. And I think this has a chance to be the biggest WrestleMania main event of all time. I have been saying that for a very, very, very long time. I haven't taken away from that. I just don't understand, why the WWE has decided to convolute it, right? What they should have done if they wanted to do this convolution, as CM Punk said in the press conference, they could have done that back in 2013. I would have loved that because Rock and Cena, once in a lifetime in Miami, ended up being twice in a lifetime. And the second time around was not as good as the first because the championship was on the line and because it was a rematch. I would have loved to see a triple threat between Rock, Cena, and Punk at WrestleMania because that would have made it so that the WrestleMania encounter in Miami, still to this day, we could call once in a lifetime, would still hold up here in 2024 and would have gave us something different at WrestleMania in New York City and would have made it so that when I was at that WrestleMania, I would have had some sort of doubt in who was leaving with the belt. Is it Cena or is it Punk? And remember, at the time, Punk was that long reigning champion. He had been champion from the previous WrestleMania. So, boy, Punk had a lot of credibility. So that would have been great. But unfortunately, we didn't get that. We got Rock as champion, clearly going to lose to Cena in the rematch because how WWE works rematches is everyone gets their turns, right? So clearly Cena's going to win because it's a rematch. Clearly Cena's going to win because the championship's on the line. Clearly now we get twice in a lifetime, negating the year before. So WWE dropped the ball on that one. I do want to see this be once in a lifetime Rock and Roman. I would love, hey, next year, Rock, Roman, Cody Rhodes in a triple threat. Change it up. That's great. But we do need Rock and Roman one-on-one when we get it. And I would prefer whenever we get it, it's not for the title. So, hey, maybe it's Cody versus Roman on night one, and then Rock awaits Roman without the championship on night two. I don't know. But, here's the deal. This is not just going to be a clean Rock versus Roman. We just know that now. It's not going to be a clean Roman versus Cody. We know that now. That's one thing we know for sure. And I do think the WWE did try to pull a swerve What would you make? What do you make on The Rock right now as a heel, coming out doing the heel thing? Are you a fan of that, or did you want to see him come out, and this be a legitimate and him be the popular Rock and Roman be the heel?
No, I love the heel. I love heel Rock. I think it's great. I think what's happened is I feel like that's one aspect of it that's changed, from that perspective of, most of the time the Rock comes back, he gets the love and everybody loves, is happy that he's back, this and that. Now he's getting the boos and you hear all the different things. He went on Pat McAfee's show this week and, shortly before the press conference and cut a nice promo and pretty much ripped the We Want Cody people and all that stuff. So it was like that to me, like Rock as a heel, there's not many better as a heel than him. Like he's on the Mount Rushmore in general, but as a heel, he's on the Mount Rushmore for me. I love it. I think this is going to be good, entertaining television, and heading into WrestleMania. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Now, I still want to know, like, are we definitely getting this tag match? Because Big E alluded to it. We got to get a tag match here, right?
I don't know I think the press conference, good on WWE. And I said on a tweet earlier today, I said, are we going to get some answers tonight, or are we going to end up with more questions at the press conference? And clearly we're talking about it right now. We got more questions. So yeah. I guess good on WWE, and good on WWE as well, because let's be real. I get it. WWE's having this big press conference. They want to put up WrestleMania in front of a big audience in Las Vegas, Nevada. Good on them for doing that. Get that press while you can, but at the same time, also remember, WrestleMania isn't next week. It is a little ways away. It isn't that. I know WWE is telling us that it's very important they lock down these main events, but again, Rock faced Hogan. Okay, Rock faced Hogan at WrestleMania 18 in a match that obviously is a classic, part of what WrestleMania was. That rivalry essentially started when Hogan stepped foot into WWE at No Way Out in the end of February. I think it was February 21st or something like that. No Way Out, Milwaukee, when he stepped in. And it was actually not till the next night, I think it was at the Allstate Arena in Chicago, that, because Hogan came as part of the NWO but didn't do anything with The Rock. And it was the next night on Raw that they started that little rivalry with, Hogan driving the ambulance into the car and doing that whole thing, right?
Yeah.
People might forget WrestleMania that year had a very short build, the shortest build. WrestleMania that year, March 14th, or either March 14th or March 17th. March 17th. I know WrestleMania 20, I think, was March 14th. So either way, March 17th, right? March 17th, yeah. 3 weeks or less into the month of March, right? You get that build. So essentially 4 weeks between No Way Out and WrestleMania, Hogan versus Rock, right? So, I know Michael Cole and they're all saying, we're going to get these main events hammered down. But from a WWE's perspective, we don't necessarily need them hammered down in that way. WWE knows that. That's why they gave us this press conference pretty much being like, oh, we better get this set. And then being like, oh, just kidding. We got lots of time and we're going to take you on a road. It's like watching a movie where at the beginning of the movie, they try to be like, we've got this all figured out and we want to tell you this little story, but actually, we got nothing figured out. Enjoy the next 2 hours. And that takes you on the movie, right? And that's what WWE did us today. They said
twists and turns. And
WWE took us to a press conference today where they essentially treated WrestleMania like it was next week and then said, oh yeah, spoiler alert, it's not next week.
Well, here's the other thing,
next 2 months.
WWE, this whole, obviously with the whole Endeavor, UFC, WWE, this was a UFC style event. This is what it was. Obviously we were talking pre-show. This was in T-Mobile Arena, which is, where UFC does a lot of their business, right in Vegas. Mm-hmm. It's a big week, and WWE's capitalizing on the fact that there are a lot of people, whether it's media, fans,
absolutely.
Super Bowl. It's so smart. Khan, the whole crew there, they are doing a hell of a job. I just want to, give a shout out to WWE on that because they're building it up. And like you said, we watched it. We watched it for what, a good hour and change? I think it was just ran over just about an hour. I watched it and I came out of it, like you said, more questions, but I was still entertained because of what went down. So for me, I'm looking forward to seeing what's going to happen next. And to your point, there's not much, and you mentioned there wasn't much of a build for Rock Hogan. Well, there isn't much of a build between press conference, in the second week of February versus going to Perth in about two and a half weeks from now. So it's, to me, there's a little something there as well where I think the tag match is happening. I feel like to me, it makes too much sense. They got to put a card together. You can't just roll with 3 matches 2 weeks in or 2 weeks, 2 weeks out of the event.
Yeah, we're
There's
15
be
days away from Elimination Chamber.
What's that?
15 days. 15
yeah, see,
days
just
away.
over 2 weeks. Just over 2 weeks. And we got 3 cards that aren't even set because we still have qualifier matches and this and that. So we don't really have, what do we have? 1, maybe 2 matches that are set at this point. So at this
not any main events either.
No, I mean, to be honest with you, you're right. There's not too many main events that are 45,000 plus seat, type of main events. So to me, I think the next step in the process is there's going to be a response by Cody. I'm looking forward to seeing what's going to happen in the in the next few shows here coming up, because I do feel like there's that tag matches now. I think it's happening. I think we're going to see The Rock. I think we're going to see Roman. I think we're going to see Cody, and I think we're going to see Seth. Tag match in Perth.
I thought that when Rock and Roman happened, it wasn't going to happen in WrestleMania in Dallas because it didn't have enough of a build. I always thought one, like I said earlier, we're going to get this for sure, but 2, as Rock has even stated himself, this thing needs a build. And what we're going to end up getting clearly is not just not a 1-year build, but we're 2 months out from WrestleMania, and we still don't even know, right, if we're getting Roman versus Rock for sure in an organic way.
Hold on 1 sec, though. You just gave me that. You just gave me something. So when The Rock put that big graphic up of the family tree of the bloodline and everything, that to me, the way they could spin this, which I wouldn't be surprised they do this. This has been in the making for generations. You know what I mean? They could spin it that way because of all the lineage between the families. This has been part of our ancestry. So this has been built for a generation and generations of family. So to me, even though in this spectrum, maybe it's a shorter build. We're only not even 60 days out from Mania, but I could see them twisting it and say, hey, look at the family history. What was the point of putting that huge graphic up of the family if they're not going to use it in some way, shape, or form?
Yeah, I mean, I just think this is just not how I plan Rock and Roman happening. I mean, whatever we get, if you were to take me back 1 year ago, I would say for sure WrestleMania, Rock and Roman. If it's not at WrestleMania LA, it's at WrestleMania in Philly. If it's not in Philly, it's the next whatever. But
let me ask you this then.
This is not the way I was going to go.
I know it's not the way you want to see it, but if it
might be, I'm not sure, but as of right now, it's not necessarily the way I want to see it.
Let me ask you this. If it goes the way that I'm, obviously we got a lot of time still between now and then. Right now, my gut feeling is it's going to be Rock and Roman night 1, and then Roman and Cody night 2.
I will say if it goes that way, it does cheapen Rock and Roman, because I do think that if it's just one of multiple main events, like I said, Cena and Rock, I just harken back to that. Cena and Rock, WrestleMania 28, Miami, right? That wasn't your night 1 main event. That wasn't your semifinal match. That wasn't your, championship to get to the Super Bowl. That was your main event. That was your 1-year build. That was your Flo Rida singing The Rock to the ring and your MGK singing John Cena to the ring. Both got musical entrances. Both got music videos. Both got the whole 9 yards. That was a 1-year. They even got a documentary. You know what I mean? The USA Network played the once in a lifetime 1 hour, in the making kind of thing, right? And hey, Cena and Rock teamed up at Survivor Series 6 months out of that WrestleMania we knew that WrestleMania main event at Survivor Series, and they were teaming up then to kind of start the build officially for that match.
You know what I was just thinking?
It wasn't night 1 of a 2-night WrestleMania. That's all.
That whole tag team thing that I'm just, I'm spitballing right now as we're on. What, we got to figure out the health of Seth. The health of Seth's important too, because he's not technically, according to what they're saying, he's not really clear yet.
So this idea of them in 15 days of Elimination Chamber, how would that necessarily work out, right?
Well, here's the other thing. Here's another layer, which makes this so much fun to talk about. What if they do the tag match, as we were just, kind of just spitballing, and then Seth turns on Cody, and then that sets up Cody and Seth at WrestleMania, takes it out of the equation somehow. I'm just spitballing. You know how Seth Rollins is. He can turn him in a heart. He can turn him in a second. That's how he is.
And they have reason to, right? The fact that Cody picks Roman over him makes him seem weaker, makes him seem lesser, makes him seem like he doesn't want to go after him.
There's so many ways to go. I love it. I think this is fun right now.
Seth could feel, obviously, the way that he feels right now. The way that he feels. To be honest with you, we could get Cody and Rock and Seth versus Roman. It's difficult because champions are champions.
Well, here's the thing, dude. the thing that I love about it,
Roman and Seth have a rivalry right now. The way that Roman's talking about Seth being the B star.
There's so many layers to it, and I love the fact that it's not predictable right now. Like, that makes me happy.
It does make it difficult for it to be the biggest WrestleMania of all time if it's going like all these weird routes. I love all the WWE weird routes, but it's hard for, because when you make the biggest WrestleMania of all time, a lot of times you make it, like I said, Cena Rock, right? The reason that's huge, once in a lifetime, you got the billboards, you got the build, it's easy to digest. That's why the Super Bowl is the way it is, because you got two teams, one game, a big time build. The reason they have the week off is so that they can build it. That's the reason they do that, is so that they can build it longer and longer. So if this is WrestleMania 40, the biggest main event of all time, well, to ensue that it's the biggest main event and the biggest Mania, you got to have a pretty clear main event and a pretty clear match, right? Austin versus Rock, pretty clear. Hogan versus Rock, pretty clear. You got to have these pretty clear matches. So if Triple H is saying this is the biggest WrestleMania match of all time, we got to kind of know what that match is, right? Well, we can't say this is the biggest Super Bowl of all time. We don't know who's facing who yet.
Well, I think there's another way you could spin it, though. You could spin it in a way where it's like, yes, this could be the biggest box office WrestleMania of all time, because the most, I would say one of the most famous people on the planet, and somebody who everybody knows, whether you're a wrestling fan or not, is going to be involved. So even if The Rock is involved in any way, shape, or form, that to me is box office. That to me could make it the biggest of all time. So regardless of all the swerves swerves that are going to happen, I think along the way, The Rock's involvement already makes it blockbuster, and then how they unfold it can make it one of the greatest WrestleManias of all time.
Keeps us on the road to WrestleMania, keeps things interesting. We didn't have any better answers last week.
Nope.
We thought we did, because I didn't know The Rock was essentially showing up, but as soon as he showed up at SmackDown through Kink and everything, and well, who knows what we'll be talking about next week. If we have any more answers to anything, we'll talk more about Rock, Roman, Seth, Cody, Rock, Roman, hey, and even Drew McIntyre. Don't forget about him, because let me tell you, he's not letting you forget about him. And I definitely think that he is somebody who's going to play a part in some of this before all is said and done.